We've got a question here, and I thought it was interesting. Out of the bottom three teams, this is Birdman. Mm-hmm. Out of the three bottom teams, which list do you take with whose coaching staff? Okay, that I didn't read that when I first read that in my head.
Oh, should we start with the coaches? I mean,
yeah, let's do that. Let's break it down into two separate categories first. Yeah. I'm going coaches.
We've got one decorated all-time coach in Alistair Clarkson who could be past his best, and then you've got two fresh-faced, untried coaches that we are still learning about.
I feel like this is probably a Richmond fan. Like, you bastard.
Yeah.
I would say currently from what we've seen, Uze, McQualter, Clarkson.
Really?
Yeah.
Why Clarkson ranked third?
Because other than if you didn't know that he'd won 4 premierships, which you can't take away from him, so it sounds like I'm disrespecting him a lot. But if I didn't know that, I wouldn't think he was a good coach.
Right.
Yeah. There's no evidence since he's been at North Melbourne to suggest that he's a top line coach. I know there's no evidence for the other two either because of where they are on the ladder and they haven't had enough time. But at the moment, with what we've seen, at least Clarkson's had 3 years.
Yeah. What I will say that Uze has that Clarkson and McQualter don't is half-decent senior players.
Yes.
I think that goes such a long way into asking the coaches to prove something.
That is a really good point. And it gives him coaches on the field.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I feel like Richmond's got the best spread of that. They've got big-bodied midfielders. They've got a big ruck. They've got Tom Lynch in the forward line. They've got Bolter sometimes. But like Nathan Broad, Vlostrian, so from that point of view...
Vlosten's probably one of the higher IQ players in the comp, honestly.
There is no equivalent of those players, certainly at West Coast and, North senior players.
Well, our best senior player is Luke Parker, and he only just joined the club.
Well, would you consider LDU a senior player now?
Yeah, but somewhat. I don't see him as a leader. Fair. I just see him as a good player.
Yeah.
Who has ups and downs, and is in some ways... He's a pretty high level player, but he still makes like really big errors. And I can only put that down to the fact that he hasn't had other senior players really driving him with those standards.
That's right. Yeah, coaching style. I mean, I take your point about Clarko. As for Uze and McQualter, I mean, I would concede that Uze certainly demonstrated the most. I do think he is the most equipped with those senior players, but...
It's hard to go against him in that conversation.
Yeah, I don't think you can make any argument that McQualter is a better coach, other than I have faith that McQualter seems really smart. And I think he's done a good job with what he's been given.
I think he's had as far as, if you just went and looked at the wins and losses, you'd say, he's done terribly with West Coast. But the way that he's tried to play, I think, is the best that he could have done with the players that he's got available to him. So
yeah, but having said that, there's not enough there to put him as the coach you'd take out of those three. So
no, it's realistically, with both Uze and McQualter, we haven't seen enough. It's too soon. I feel like there's kind of enough evidence with Clarkson, though, to say he was a great coach, a generational coach, but he's just not there. He doesn't have the same edge that he used to, clearly. I think that's pretty evident.
So what about the playing list part? Because I feel like it's a bit of a philosophical question. Personally,
I would say
maybe not philosophical. I think it depends on your viewpoint.
Yeah, I would go as far as if you just walked in and you just judge it on the list, not on what the club can provide in future years.
Yeah,
and you probably know where I'm going with this right now, but I would say Richmond, North Melbourne, West Coast.
So when you say best list, I don't even think this is a super simple question.
Talent. Yeah,
so we're talking like FIFA ratings, total sum of quality? Because
I think so. I think and focusing heavily on the players that are 25 and under, maybe 26 and under, the ones that are going to potentially be there, I think, in the next premiership. So not necessarily looking at those 30 plus guys as well, and just looking at the kind of the volume of talent. I think there is a level there that with Richmond, they're kind of granted a little bit more because of the fact that their players are so young. So they haven't had any, West Coast have had a few drafts, North have had a lot of drafts. So there's some players you're already starting to put a line through. Where with Richmond, it's kind of Sam Lawler, Josh Smiley, Taj Houghton, Jonty Fall, Trainer and Armstrong, we're assuming that they're going to be really good.
Exactly.
Because we haven't seen them been able to fail yet.
Yeah, exactly right, which I think is a... Yeah, I mean, it feels like these draftees hold value and they depreciate over time. Like we have seen absolutely nothing from Josh Smiley, for instance. We've seen a little bit from Taj Houghton.
There's no way all of those players, just on statistics alone, they're not all going to work out.
Exactly. But they have been put in the best environment out of those three clubs to perform well early. I mean, Sam Lawler probably would show the same highlights regardless of who he played for, right? But generally speaking...
That's a good point, though.
I think Richmond's got the best team to facilitate this development, but we have no idea how some of these guys are going to turn out. A few have probably made the steps towards being like, okay, you can tell he's a good player. Seth Campbell, for instance. Sam Banks looks pretty good. Tom Brown. But
I think we had a conversation earlier with Richmond too, where in a different episode, but we were talking about their, how they've been able to win those games. And we talked about how it was from the experienced players that you said, like your Vostons and your Broads and those types. But it actually has been a little bit those second to third to fourth year players, like Tom Brown, Seth Campbell, Banks, and these types of players that have kind of gone to another level. And they're starting to show that they probably will be not necessarily top line AFL players, but they'll be at least a role player in whatever is to come.
I do agree, but I think if you take out the senior players, those guys would be struggling.
Totally.
Is basically my point.
They need it, but yeah.
They wouldn't get a kick at West Coast.
Yeah.
Because there's no quality senior players.
That's
really
what tends to happen as well. Like as a North fan, you'd know this as a West Coast fan too, but when you don't have those experienced players, you can't ever seemingly get a bargain either. None of your players end up getting taken at pick 50 and turn out to be really good unless there's some kind of a freak.
That's true, yeah.
You don't get as many bargains because those guys just don't go on to succeed unless they're in a top-line environment.
If Ollie Dempsey had been drafted to North or West Coast at the time...
He's doing nothing.
He wouldn't get a kick at West Coast, honestly.
Yeah.
Which is not a comment on him as a player, obviously. Like someone like a Ginnivan, right? He is kind of a, with all due respect... seagull. He plays well in good teams, but he's also incredibly skilled.
Yeah.
But you would never know that if he played at West Coast.
Totally. There are players that need to be in strong teams, I think, just their skill sets and whatnot. There are kind of those grafters that do that, hard sort of work, I suppose. And then you need the players that do have the finishing ability. On top of that, just the balance.
So in summary, Richmond have the best environment for young players to come in and grow. And so from that perspective, I'd almost say that's the list you want, given they also had the picks. But the young talent is still very unproven for me. There's nothing to suggest that they're going to rebuild perfectly from here. We don't know enough about the young talent. North have the best young talent of the three, certainly the best performed young talent, I would say. Your Curtises, your Sheasels. Yeah, I mean, they've kind of fluctuated, but I think on ability...
they're probably a little bit more advanced.
Yeah, agreed. Exactly. That's really what it comes down to. West Coast have the weakest established players and some really decent top-end talent like Harley Reid, Elijah Hewitt, and a couple others. But the rest of it, we still don't know how these guys are going to turn out, not because they don't look good at the moment, but they've just got so little support. They're just overexposed, and you have to question what that's going to do to the development if it continues like this for 3 years.
I think overall, to put a line under that, it's basically saying how important that the culture is.
Yeah.
And almost in a way, the player... In some ways, the players that you actually have is secondary. At some point, I think that tips the other way in the development, and as you get closer to finals and stuff, then the player... quality becomes more important.
Yeah.
But at the level that those clubs are operating at, they need, they probably need characters more than they need actually skilled players as well. But then they've got to get the list right at the same time. So it's...
Big bodies become more important at that level as well.
Yeah, for sure.
We could use a big body.